So this past weekend, we had the Bengals and the Ravens. This first matchup of the season between these AFC North rivals. This turned out to be a doozy. So this went into overtime. The Ravens end up getting the victory, 41-38 in OT. Ravens move to 3-2. Cincinnati drops to 1-4. And look, as well as that offense played in this game, there's only but so many times we can sit here and say, hey, the Bengals are going to turn things around. That time is now or never.
Yeah, this one, these teams were close to the top of both of our list of being able to recover from being 0-2. Unfortunately, playing each other early means that one of them is going to have a bit more of a setback unless you tie, which I guess almost happened. But the Ravens in this one come out. They play a good game. They try to give it away, and the Bengals go, "Nah, you can have it." And now they're 1-4, and the Ravens have fought all the way back to be 3-2 after starting 0-2. So let's look at it on paper. Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow both have monster games, but we'll start with the Ravens. Jackson goes 26 for 42, 348 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's second in the team with 55 rushing yards. He does fumble twice. He saves one of them. The other one goes to the Bengals. Derrick Henry continues his run. He has 92 yards in this game, leading off rushers. Also gets a touchdown. Zay Flowers is big in the air with 111 yards. However, does not find the end zone. That's okay. Plenty of Ravens did. Charlie Kolar, the backup tight end, gets 3 receptions, 64 yards, and a touchdown. Rashad Bateman got 4 receptions, 58 yards, and a touchdown. And Isaiah Likely had 3 receptions, 13 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So big games for them. Mark Andrews also has been the kind of center of ridicule for the Ravens. No touchdown for him, but he did get 55 yards. A little less than Bateman and Kolar, but more than likely. So Ravens are doing crazy stuff with their tight end room, but it is working. So I can't really fault them on that one. Marlon Humphrey was able to pick off Joe Burrow, which is a pick that Terrence and I just discussed before the show has been controversial for the reasons that the Bengals lost. Big play for Humphrey for sure. Gets his team in it, helps them get back to win. Not going to put the full blame of this loss on Joe Burrow's interception. And then we'll talk about kickers for sure. We've criticized Justin Tucker this season. He had a 56-yarder to force overtime. Getting a little bit back into form. Last season, if you told me Tucker was going to kick a 56-yarder to force overtime, I'd be very confident. This game, I was a little like, I don't know. It's a little scary. I'm sure the Ravens are a little shaky. He got them there and they win. So big day for him. For the Bengals, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson has a really good game. I like Lamar Jackson a lot. So I don't want to diminish him. Joe Burrow plays out of his mind in this game. 30 for 39, which is crazy to throw 39 passes and only miss 9. 392 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. Just a crazy day. Not really anything on the ground, but that's not really his thing. He puts on an incredible passing performance. So does Lamar. We're not going to push the Lamar can't pass agenda on this show. He clearly can. But Joe Burrow had a crazy game in this one for sure. Jamar Chase was a big part of that. Led them in the air with 193 yards, including a 70-yard reception. He had himself 2 touchdowns. T. Higgins was second in the air with 83 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then Chase Brown was the leading running back with 46 yards. It's okay, for ground production, but he does haul in the last, numerically here as I list them out, receiving touchdown for the Bengals. He had 8 receiving yards. Jermaine Pratt was the lucky Bengal to recover the Lamar Jackson lost fumble. And Evan McPherson, who we will discuss here and we will not be too harsh to because, as Terrence will talk about, there's outside forces at play on this one, does miss his lone field goal attempt, which comes in overtime. 53-yarder to take the win after the Ravens fumble in overtime. Unfortunately, he misses. The Ravens get the ball back and in 2 plays, kick a 24-yard field goal and win this one. 41-38 to move to 3-2. All as well for them as the Steelers are starting to drop off. And the Bengals have fallen in really to obscurity. At 1-4, I think maybe they could put on somewhat of a crazy run to try to get back. I saw someone say that, they got to win next week or the season's over. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but at 1-4, I really just do feel like your season is already over.
Yeah, I mean, the only saving grace is maybe the Ravens are on to come up. It looks like they're kind of putting things together. That defense, both defenses are a problem right now. That's very obvious. Second half, neither defense can really do much of anything. First half it was a little bit better outside of a few drives, but second half, I mean, there was no defense being played. It was like classic Big 12 action out there. But The Steelers, like you said, they're faltering. Browns are the Browns. The rest of the AFC is kind of in a weird spot right now. I mean, there's not too many dominant teams like so far. I mean, even the Bills, like they've lost 2 games in a row. The Chiefs, 5-0. They finally look like they are the Chiefs after beating the Saints last night. But that might be the only saving grace for the Bengals. But again, like I said, we're going to keep talking every single week, like, oh, the Bengals are turning around. We know that they do this every season. They're 1-4, and regardless of whether it's on Joe Burrow, which it generally hadn't been, or on the defense, like as a team, they are 1-4, 0-3 at home to start the season. It's as simple as that. So, in lieu of just talking about every single drive when it happened, I'm just be real. Like, Bengals absolutely, to start off, they didn't look that good, and they had a couple drives in the first half. That second drive, scored a touchdown. They went down the field pretty good, but for the most part, first half, offense wouldn't do much of anything. They got a safety, and I guess that kind of sparked them a little bit, but offense wasn't really there, and defense was doing what it could, to not let Lamar, Derrick Henry, and the Ravens completely run over them, which they didn't. Second half, like I said, no kind of defense, no kind of resistance for either team really. Um, so let's just get to the turnovers here and the missed field goal. Bad interception by Joe Burrow, absolutely. At this point, there's like 5 minutes left. When they started the drive, 3 minutes left. And when he threw that pick, could have gotten at least a field goal on that drive. So then you still would have. They would have needed a touchdown, but an extra point would have won it there. So still not in great position. But obviously interception hurts. Lets them get down, tie it with a Justin Tucker field goal, and then that last drive they kind of pissed me off a little bit. Not that I was rooting for either team, but it's like that first play, Joe Burrow gets sacked, and they're like, "Well, forget it. You're at your 20. We're not even going to try." So just like that, the tide of this game's kind of switched. The Ravens, they get the ball first in overtime, winning the toss. It seems like the Ravens are just going to go down there with no problem, and at least get a field goal to start off overtime until Lamar fumbles. He had another fumble earlier in the game. He was able to recover that one. And I swear to you, nobody was in the living room with me to hear me say this, but I swear to you, when Lamar picked up that fumble earlier and threw it for a touchdown, carried himself, threw it for a touchdown in the end zone, I swear to you, I said he's going to throw a touchdown here after he picked it up. I believed that he was going to do it, and he did it. He didn't do that in overtime, and you kind of mentioned it earlier. We are not going to push the Lamar can't throw agenda on this show. But what I will say is that it's kind of funny how things turn. Joe Burrow throws that interception. They missed the field goal. He loses. People are blaming him. If Lamar fumble had screwed them here, people be blaming Lamar. Just 2 little plays just like that. If that first game against the Chiefs, when Lamar, missed a couple throws at the end of the game, everybody was saying, oh, he can't throw. If he had made those couple throws, they won the game, they'd be talking about how he's already the MVP. I feel like we just got to start being realistic when it comes, realistic and reasonable when it comes to these games and how we view these QBs and their performances. Not to be on a soapbox, but like it's just a little ridiculous. My issue with this game overall, the defenses were non-existent in the second half, and then the passiveness from the Bengals on that drive after getting the Lamar fumble, it's like they didn't even attempt to gain any more yards. And look, Evan McPherson, I think he's generally been a good kicker. I think he would have made it had the holder not messed up. So, I mean, I guess if you get 10 more yards, 10, 15 more yards, if the holder still screws up, I mean, he screws up, right? So maybe it doesn't have any effect on it. But either way, I don't agree with the fact that they just were so passive, tried to basically get no kind of yards on that last drive. to at least put themselves in a better position to score. And because at that point, you'd only needed the field goal to win. This isn't the playoffs. So defense is being non-existent. Turnovers were a problem. Obviously, you can't have the turnovers, the fumble, and the interception by Lamar and Joe, respectively. But defenses being an issue, and then the passiveness at the end there. And then Derrick Henry really hadn't done too much. Wasn't playing bad, but he just didn't have that many carries in the game. At the end, he gets the ball, he takes it all the way down, basically, sets them up with the easiest field goal ever to win for Justin Tucker. And the Ravens, they move on to 3-2.
Yeah, and I think this is a really good point just to kind of linger on that, like, with the way this game went, people are going to blame Joe Burrow. If a fumble had been it and the Bengals hit that field goal, people will blame Lamar Jackson. Truthfully, as I started to say before we recorded here, the issue is the defenses, right? Like you can blame your quarterback for throwing a pick, you can blame your quarterback for fumbling, whatever. Truthfully, your team allowed 41 points. Either way around, right? The way this game goes, if Joe Burrow doesn't throw that pick, then or if they hit their field goal, they win 41-38 instead. If because of Lamar's fumble. So truthfully, like I think it really comes down to like these defenses have got to get better. The Bengals defense, not to be reactionary, but throughout this season, could possibly be one of the worst in the NFL, if not the worst. They've allowed 145 points through 5 games. The Bengals have scored 140 points through those 5 games and are 1-4 because they cannot just bring it together. And the one team they beat was the Panthers, who made it a fight. They got almost everything they wanted against that Bengals defense. And so I think really the Bengals, they can blame Joe Burrow if they want to. I think personally it's not really on Joe. The pick is unfortunate. It does force this one to overtime. They did get another chance to win it. The holder can then be put to blame if you really want to go that direction. But truthfully, I think all in all, the biggest issue for this one is the Bengals defense. They look really bad. They haven't looked good all season so far. They play in a tough division as far as offenses have to face, even with Pittsburgh and Cleveland playing kind of weird. Those teams can light up if you give them too much room. And the Bengals just haven't stopped anything all season. I think that's going to be a problem. Close-ish game with the Chiefs is probably where the Bengals defense looked best. But otherwise, I think that this Bengals defense has not been one to be proud of, and really neither has the Ravens defense. But at the very least, they're 3-2 and have a lot more to be happy about than their 1-4 divisional rival.